Thank you. First of all, thank you everyone for coming tonight. This is a truly multicultural event. So I would like to say, first of all, my name is Vikki Kapoor. Watashi no namae wa Kapoor Vikki to moshimasu. Iromi Kapoor Vikki nida namasai Vikki. So there are some languages basically that I know a little bit. So my name is Vikki Kapoor. I work as a project manager for Ericsson Australia. I've been with Ericsson for almost 10 years. I have worked in Japan for 7 years. I have also worked in Singapore 4 years. And during my work experience with Ericsson, I have traveled abroad as well. So with recent, I was in South Africa as well for some workshop that I normally conduct internally, Malaysia, Sweden, Japan. So a lot of experience actually I have gained by living and working in those countries. So hopefully I'd like to share some of those stories, that experience with you today. I'm not here to teach you anything, I'm just basically here to share the experience that I learned while I was working. And I will mainly talk about organization culture and also the culture because they are quite interrelated. When you work in an organization, it's quite important to understand what is the organization culture, and then on top of that, of course, you need to understand what cultural background you're working on. So those are the few things, and you will see there's a mixture in there as well. And talking about my background, I'm Indian origin, living in Australia for past 26 years, and Australia is my home. My wife is from South Korea. We married in Singapore. My son born in Brisbane, who grew up in Japan. And our second language at home is Japanese. Beat us. So that's basically a multicultural experience. And so as I mentioned, we speak second language is Japanese at home. So I'll talk about more things about Japan-related experience. Okay, so agenda is about the organization culture, concept, what are the experience and understanding organization. So these are the few things. The order may change here and there, but I'd like to basically share a few thoughts here. And at the end, the topic, which is Are You in My Circle? That is more basically philosophical. And by the end up, hopefully, you can understand what actually I wanted to talk today. So first of all, starting with the cultural concept. So as you can see, we have some assumptions and beliefs for any particular culture that we think. And we also notice the behavior, and we think or perceive that is a culture. And based on that, how we react, how we do, how we think, is basically we have these results and consequences. Right? And the culture is built on opinion, belief, feelings, and views. And often you may hear when you work, this is how we do things here. Right? Moving on. So when you talk about the culture, and you're talking specific with the organization culture, it is a kind of glue that held the organization together with its values, concepts, standards on how employees should behave or act or talk. So this is basically about it. And it mainly concerns with the organization founder. It has the visions and missions, whatever the history they have, and also the leaders in that organization, how they behave. These all things together forms an organization culture. Other aspects, if you work, you will notice the social organization, religion also comes in place, custom, rituals, traditions. This is something that we need to be aware or understand how the important those values, their attitudes, education provision, political system, languages. There are many things that are said in particular language that could be misunderstood. Maybe sometimes people say yes, it could be no. When they say no, it could be yes. When they say maybe, it could be yes as well. So there are many things with the language as well, how you interpret. So we'll take a few examples when we go along with the slides. Okay, so this is the slide, basically what I think about. There are 4 types of organization level or the structure, if you see. The first one is on the clan. Then you have autocracy, hierarchy, market. So if you see on the top, they're talking mainly about the flexibility and the freedom to act. And the bottom, if you see, they focus more on to stability and control. On the left side, they have internal focus and integration. And the right one, they're talking about external focus and differentiation. So these are mainly organization culture, 4 types of you will see. And what are they? So if you go on to the next slide. So the first one, the clan oriented. This is something about let's do things together. So it's like more like family oriented, helping each other, coming and say, come on, look, we gotta help each other and doing things together. Autocracy is about taking something like entrepreneurial risk taking. They want to be the first in the market. I work a lot with Telstra, and I believe the experience-wise, Telstra want to doing things first as well because they have a high competition with their operators. They are willing to take risk as well. So they focus on doing things first. Same time also focusing on the market oriented as well, getting the job done as well. The last but not least on the hierarchy oriented culture, which is mainly very structured, and this is on to doing things right. So my past experience in Japan was mainly based on something along the hierarchy part. Basically things are doing the right things in process, following the tools, using the process, very process oriented. So these are the organizations that we can think of, and I'm sure you will find out which organization culture that you work in there. So important thing to understand what organization you're working and what is their culture. So this is one of the aspects. This is a very important slide. Let's see if we can find out. So this is on the hierarchy type of, and let's see if we can figure it out who in the zoo. So basically, what is there in organization? There are some hidden rules, there are some hidden circles where people act or behave in a way that you need to really understand. It's very hard to understand how they're actually working. Who is important, who can be more influential, is not easy to find out, and it takes time and effort for you to figure it out how actually some certain organization they have structured. Okay. So nothing to do with monkeys, is just showing an example. Okay, so now everybody knows about when we're working on projects, we always have a triple constraints. We focus on schedule, cost, scope, and often one of them can be priority or unless it's defined, and then we focus accordingly that, right? And if we go to the next slide, when we're working on Japan, next click here, so their focus mainly is always on the quality, so they are willing to accept changes in cost, time, and scope, but there will be no changes in the quality. They would like to maintain certain quality, and if something goes wrong, they will not proceed until it's verified that you are ready to go. So in case something is wrong, we need to go back, prove it. This will definitely work next time. And if it doesn't work, we need to go back and revise the time. So they can sacrifice on the time, cost, and scope, but not on the quality. So based on the experience, what happened many times, things went wrong, and there are certain things that they could take risk and proceed, but they said no. We need to know why this mistake happened, how are you going to improve it, how can you assure this will never happen again, and why this has happened. Once you have the plan and you have to prove it, then only you can proceed. So they're highly focused on the quality. Okay, anybody can guess? Now it's a story time. I'd like to share some story. Anybody can guess what happened on 11th March 2011 at 2:46 p.m.? Anybody else? Okay, so he's right. So what happened that actually, this is the incident that changed my life, and I'd like to share the story on that. So on that particular day, it was a working day on Friday, and we were all working normally in our office, and buildings start to shake, and it was shaking really bad. It was like someone was rattling the whole staircase, and you can imagine, and it was really shaking, squeaking, making terrible sound, and we were all scared, hiding under the table, and we were hoping that things will go away. But it didn't go until another half an hour. We went down, and then we went up again, but in between there were 2 earthquakes came, and then this is basically changed everything. And what happened, the tsunami came, because the earthquake was under the sea. Big tsunami came, and after the tsunami, the nuclear reactor was broken down as well, one after the other. My organization, Ericsson, did really look after well all the people who were working there, foreigners, sent them to Osaka. And I was in the middle of the project as well, so we had some important payment milestone from customer side, And over there, from Japanese customer side, time is very important. If they have committed something, they want to do definitely. So this was Friday, and I had a payment milestone on Monday, so I had to go there. This was the plan, that we should go there and get the sign-off, final acceptance certificate, and then we should move on. So I think it's... so what happened then, once we got this one and we had an internal decision like, this is a payment milestone, why we can always delay it and we can ask customer for extension. So I contacted the customer and said, this is the current situation, and I proposed that after getting internal approval, I said, is it possible that we can change to another week? And basically they were so determined, they said, our people are working, they are coming to work, what's the problem? And even that situation, we still had to go to their office, show them the final acceptance certificate, get their stamps on the paper, come back to office, show that. And that's how the commitment works on the time, that once they committed, you have to do it, right? So I'm not saying they're stubborn, but I'm trying to say they pay attention to that commitment, and this is how things may work there. So nothing on the negative side, but basically it was from their perspective that this is something we have committed, we have to move on. So earthquake, just one of the things, not a big drama. Another important thing is, often people say that, yes, we have to be on time, punctual, but being late is as bad as being early as well. So often when you have appointment, even people are there for 10, 15 minutes earlier, they're not going to knock your door, disturb you, they will wait patiently for 10 minutes, reading book, watching some clip on phone, or doing something. But they will not, they will just exactly a minute or two, they will make sure that they're on time. So the on time is very important. Yeah. Now I'm going to talk about some funny things here. So when you're working on the cultural differences, you will notice verbal, you could also notice on the written. There are some hidden rules, mannerism, customs, and the expression as well. Expressions on your faces, how the people react. Once they react, you know what they're thinking, you can at least guess. So let's start with the verbal, or if you can click there. Okay. So I'm just going to take some example. So this is how customer basically will say. So if they're asking something in Japanese, let's say, can you submit this document by 10 a.m. tomorrow? So if they're really confident, they will definitely say, "Hai, ganbarimasu." Basically what it means, they're trying to say, yes, we will definitely meet 99%. There's a possibility. And if you hear, "Hai, ganbarimasu," basically they're trying to say, yes, I'll do my best, but there's still 10% possibility they may not be able to deliver in time, right? And if they're really not sure, they will never say no. So no is culturally not accepted. Often you will hear the word maybe, but you will not hear no. There's a different way of saying no. So if they say "Sumimasen, chotto," it is just, the accent means like saying, sorry, I have a little bit difficulty. That basically telling that definitely less than 50%. So these are the signs when you're dealing with customer. And you need to notice what kind of sign you're facing, what is the verbal, how they're talking, their facial expressions. It's very difficult to find out. So by using the words, you can guess what they actually meant. They might say, can you submit by 2 p.m. tomorrow? Okay, then in case you're more confident that yes, you can do it. Okay, now looking at this plan here, where you belong means basically you need to know when you're going to the meeting room and you're sitting there, you need to know where you need to sit. Right? I mean, in Australia, there's no particular rule where to sit, but in the meeting room, how people sit there, you can guess what their position is in hierarchy, where they're sitting. And this is basically, I'm talking about typical Japanese company, where everything is systematic, who sits where is also organized. And if you take a close notice, you will notice as well. So I just took some example. So this is a typical meeting room. So head of department, he will sit there, who's going to address the meeting to his subordinate. His subdivision manager will sit on his right, maybe the next one on the left. His senior or the subordinate below him, next to him, and then junior, more junior, and the grad will sit at the end. So basically, by by looking at the location, you can guess what hierarchy system, who is sitting where. You might, if you see this kind of, next time if you see some meetings and all, you will notice the order is clear there, America sitting there, Japanese sitting here, and this is customer facing that side. Where the door is there, they should be facing the other side. So that order is already decided. And the funny thing is that nobody will tell you. You just need to notice. Or maybe someone kind enough to let you know. But you just need to wait and see how people are sitting there, and then eventually you will find out where you need to sit. So the meaning where you belong is basically about, you should know the mannerism built in their culture, where you should sit. Okay? So this is the minor thing. Another thing is meeting, when to talk, like not just jumping in over. So basically the structure-wise, my experience in Japan, NTT Docomo, that was in 1999. That was a very traditional Japanese company. I was working as R&D engineer, and I joined there, and I basically sat the very next to the meeting. I had a lot of ideas with my findings, but basically when I noticed in the first meeting, the head of departments will give the speech first, then he will ask on the person on the right, he will give the report of his division, what the progress is, and if needed, he or she will tell to his subordinate, can you please explain? Otherwise, basically the reporting is done early in the meeting by the 2 or 3 people. Not everybody's talk until you're asked to. Okay. Now, can somebody tell me, if you look at the facial expression, so this is very challenging, because when you are dealing with customers and a lot of time when we see people, we see like this. So can you tell me first, what is the first expression here? Listening or bored? Somebody said bored, is it? See, the interpretations are already there. Happy? Okay. Unhappy. The second one? Angry. Angry. Third one is happy, I guess. And then fourth one? Confused, sad. And the fifth one? Surprise, isn't it? And the last one? Looking sad, right? So when you see these faces, what do you actually guess? Like, you can understand person feeling, and you may adjust the way you're gonna talk. You can pitch your voice. You can talk different way. You know how person is gonna feel. But if you see this kind of face, everything is the same here. You may face this kind of situation there. When your customer or someone you're dealing with, and he's not really open to you, all the expressions are here. And this is the most challenging part I faced as well. You could not understand by a person's face whether they're happy, sad, angry. They can't. The only way to is judge to the word they use it in their speech. The unhappiness they will show very calm way. Even though they're angry, they will show in a very different manner. Facial expressions is very important. And how do you know? There are many certain things that I learned is that the eye contact. And when they see you, usually they will not make the eye contact with you. They will look at somewhere else or look at the papers. But slowly, when they start to make eye contact with you, start to talk to you, it means you're gaining their trust. They started to believe you. Yeah. So these are the things that you will notice as well. Other challenges when you see adjusting working hours. Obviously, working longer hours than you used to. So obviously, if you're not used to, some companies they have a strong or strict clock in clock out time as well. They also have a maybe less flexibility. Instead of, I should say, no. Start and finish work specific times. Right? Come to work before and leave after your boss leaves. So a lot of times you need to be there before your boss arrives, and often you leave when your boss leaves. You leave after your boss leaves. So there are a few things in very traditional companies. This scenario can happen, right? Working hours only for work. What does it mean actually here? For example, you come to work and you have your personal things as well. You gotta drop your car, you pick up your kids, or then you come back to work again, and then you go to the bank, post office, etc., etc. You can manage because you know you have a responsibility, you need to deliver, and you will do it anyway. Either you do next day or from work from home, you will do it. But basically, in some companies, it's not really allowed. You work, if you need to take some personal work, you need to separate it, and you need to take half a day or a time off officially. Okay? Some companies, they will not have a work from home, but recently things are changing, technology helping, so this may happen as well. This is some interesting statistics I collected. If you see, there's some countries, average working hour per week and their productivity. So the productivity is taken in USD to the country's GDP for each hour of work they do. So if you see top of the list, the longest working hours in Turkey, their productivity is 28.90. And you can see other countries like Chile, Israel, Norway, the shortest time, the week, 33, and their productivity is 63. Australia not doing too bad, about, depending on the 38 to 40 hours, I just took the longest. And the productivity is about 55.87 taken in year 2013. So what is basically telling me is working longer hours doesn't really mean that you're very productive, does it? Okay. It means, if you look at some other studies in Norway, they work shorter, but their productivity is higher. Australia, 40 hours, they're probably 50.87. So it's not often that you work longer hours. Means you have a productivity. So I just wanted to show this interesting graph as well. Okay. Talking about the apology. So when you're in the meeting and your apology, they call it sorry meeting or gomennasai meeting or ayamari meeting. It's more important than repeating. Repeating, saying sorry, 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 and often it's on the facial expressions as well. How are you saying it? So you really need to make a sorry face to show that you're really sorry, right? So you need to say, gomennasai, really, really sorry. I mean, so you need to repeatedly say sorry, 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 that you're really sorry. Okay. While here in Australian apology, is often the importance on the tone, and is always spontaneity as well, like how you read the situation and how you actually react. Importance placed on Japanese side when you mistake, how you can avoid in future. You have a firm plan that this will not happen again, and that particular correction can become part of the process. Means if you say this has happened, to avoid in future, we will implement this checklist. That checklist will become the part of the process, and everybody has to follow the checklist. Yeah. So that will become the norm or the process. As I mentioned, apology is tailored to recipient perception, and negative face plays a very key role. So you need to really make a negative face that you're really sorry, to show them how sorry you are. The other side, importance placed on the elaboration. Yes, there is some apology given and also told that how we're going to fix the problem, but not often making that future improvement, because avoiding promises that can set the precedence. So the importance of fixing the problem, identifying that yes, the mistake has happened, but not just building into everybody has to follow, because that mistake could be unique or specific to that particular project process, and fixing that rather than making it known. And the other things like making on the personal touch as well. So apology can be tailored according to the situation and the personal touch. Okay, next one. Okay, so as I mentioned, the form. This is what happened that when something goes wrong, your manager, the whole team will go together wearing suits and then go to the meeting. And the first thing is just keep apologizing that this is what happened and why it occurred, when it occurred, and how it had caused the impact. So you need to show some quantification. How this issue can be prevented in future. How can you be sure it will never happen? And you need to provide that assurance before you can move on. And then, of course, apology again. There's some negative face. Some other cultural traits. Basically, if we see the differences, avoidance of taking risk. While Australian culture, we have taking risk culture. They see on the long-term orientation, means they work as a work culture there. So if the work culture is there, work comes first. If you see the last one, the work, family, means work is important, first priority, then the family. While in Australia we have important part is the family, then work. But over there, work, and most of the time they spend at work. They have friends, working together, drinking together, having dinner, lunch, all together in the close working family. So it's like a second family. Importance on the quality and process, while in Australia importance on the speed. Yes, we have a process we follow, but importance on the speed. Silence as a symbol of power and strength, if you can understand this part. Means often if you don't really talk much or don't explain much, it can be considered as a weakness. I guess you might agree with that as well. But over there, you need to talk when you're asked to talk. Silence doesn't mean that you don't know. It means your authority, you have power, that you are holding on to something. Hold emotions in public, display them in public. So basically this will happen whenever we play or we have a kids and then we just yell out and yeah, go for it and you've done it well. We show our emotions. Over there they don't really show emotions because you might have done well but the other person did not do well. So sometimes even celebration can be considered as a negative. Too much celebration can be negative as well. So it is important that you celebrate, but make sure the person who did not succeed, you have apathy or sympathy or misunderstanding as well, so that you do not make him or her sad. So that's what you need to be considered as well. Not celebrating too much that you hurt someone else's emotions.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
It's interesting to say hold emotions in public in Japan, because they do have these cultural festivals. They seem to let those completely.
Yeah.
When I was working with Kapoor, they have a new celebration where they're very cultural. Men wearing not very much at all. Carry around large.
The
Floods really, they're on their shoulders, and they go charging around the city. And there's that one that doesn't exist there, but it's totally free and open.
Yeah, so
and screaming and
true. Yep. So for that particular day, they have already declared that yes, we're going to do it. This is official. We're going to shout, and that's how we're going to do it. Because it's already announced that we're going to do it officially. If you notice the comedians there, if you see the stand-up comedians like here or American, or you will see normal, just wearing suits and they're still talking. Over there, comedians, they really need to look comedian as well. Means they need to look funny to identify, yes, we are talking about. So your point, yes, so that those events are particularly designed, yes, you are allowed to go and do it. Yes, you can do it because this is a registered or official event. That yes, you need to let your mission down. Talking about that, they have a very event called year-end yearly event. So at the end of the year, all they do, they have a company's event, and then they go out and they basically just get drunk, and sometimes they even have a boss pictures hanging on the wall, and they play darts there to take their emotions. Sometimes they have some effigy as well to hit. I mean, this is just something for fun to take out the frustration. So sometimes, holding emotion is not always good. So sometimes, as you can see, they have some certain events where people do such things. So okay. So we talk about all these organizational and culture as well. And when we talk about challenges with changing the culture, so as you can see, the most difficult challenge is that this culture is interlocking goals, roles, processes, values, and communication practices, attitude, and assumption. These are actually interlocked together. And if you try to change anything, it may happen that over the time when you introduce new processes or new tools or new framework, it may have success for the short time. But because they're interworking together, they interlock together over the time, they will come again, and then they'll go back to their own culture as well. Yes, you have a question? Okay, right. Now I'm coming to the end of a couple of slides. So when you work in some different culture, different countries, there are certain things, certain rules that people like to work in a specific group, because over there, individual success is not as important as a group. Everybody work in a group ideology. There is an ism there that belongs to the group. You need to follow how the group thinks. You cannot be individual there. You cannot show that you're a hero there. You have done the achievement. anything you do is not just your success, it's part of the team success. Right? And it takes really time and effort to change your attitude, to change yourself, because you have worked in certain culture, certain environment for such a long time, and when you go to a different environment and if you need to change your attitude, it takes time and effort and patience as well. And once you're in the circle, you belong to the circle. What it means actually, it's really hard to get in some certain cultural countries or strong culture country, it's really hard to get in there. And to get in there, you need to really understand what they actually think, what is their ideology, how they work, what is their culture, what is their mannerism. And once you're there, you belong there. You cannot think outside the circle. I'm not saying you're a limitation on your thinking. I'm talking about you belong to the group. You're part of the team. You think as a goal success, team success, not just your individual success. Right? Okay? So if you fail to understand, you will have a lack of stakeholder management. People may not lack of recognition as well. You are individual, not in a circle. This means you just could be alone there. You will not get the good support there. Not to threaten you, but I'm just saying these are the drawbacks that can happen. Do you see such kind of circle around your organization when you work? I'm not sure. Do you see? Yeah. What is this circle? If you look philosophically, it's just the enclosure of boundaries based on trust, mutual understanding, and unselfishness to help each other to achieve the circle goal and success, not the individual. Once these boundaries are broken, circle will be broken. Basically, if you lose someone's trust, then it will be very hard to go back and gain their trust. So this circle is nothing, but it's just the mutual understanding, the respect that you have for each other, and you don't think just for yourself, but you think as a group, as a team. Right? And as Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest species who survived, it's who were more adaptable. So this is what actually I had to share with you. Any questions for me?
So, you were talking there about culture versus the process. That when they clash, actually, the culture they will win.
That's correct. Yeah.
Even though you have this fantastic process.
Yeah.
Because you can't win the culture over with that, ultimately.
It will fail. So you can achieve the short success for short time by bringing in things, but because it's a culture, it's a backbone built in there, over the time it will win because it has some hidden circle there. People follow that, and over the time culture will win, and then obviously yeah. So the short term success is possible, but not the long term.